call me Signifying Donkey because the Signifying Monkey got game. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have a very special guest today, Wanjiru Chege. How are you today, Wanjiru?
I am doing well, sir.
Well, now that we've gotten the introduction out of the way, why don't you tell us, the audience, more about you and your company and what you do?
Okay, so my company is called Zima 360 Wellness, and Zima is a Swahili word that means wholeness. So I wanted my brand to be basically Afrocentric, representing the diaspora. And what I do is basically promote wellness, encouragement, and I've also been kind of journaling my own wellness journey by putting out a series of my memoirs. Basically, like I said, I also specialize in infusing food and teaching people how to heal with CBD and THC products.
Now, you mentioned your memoir. For those who might want to go purchase one of your, publications or one of your writings, what's the name of your memoir?
The name of my memoir is Memoirs of a Former Bitter Bitch, and you can get that on
Love
Amazon.
it.
Get it on Amazon. It's a quick read. It's an easy read. It basically takes you through New York in the 80s and just a coming of age book. And if anybody's of the LGBTQ community, you can definitely relate to my coming out story.
Cool, cool, outstanding. I'm glad we didn't forget to mention your prowess as an author. So the reason I asked you on today is because I know you're finishing up your master's degree program in mental health counseling. So I thought you'd be, one of my passions is mental health and how to ways of managing
Mhm.
mental health. So I asked you to come on the show today to discuss specifically signs of depression or signs of other mental health conditions. Um, what are some of the classic signs that someone might be stuck or someone might be going through a mental health crisis?
Well, actually, the word stuck, that we can start there. I know for myself, the way depression kind of manifests is I feel like a combination of stuck and scattered. And I know also I used to say that I would feel like I was going along, and then all of a sudden someone dropped a black blanket over my head. Like I just felt a heaviness. So I know a
Mhm.
lot of people associate depression with just sadness, because I did too. For many years, I didn't even know I suffered with depression because I didn't fit the traditional model of what I thought depression looked like. But as I've learned more about depression, both as a disease and a passing feeling, it kind of shows up in different ways. And for a while, you can kind of fool yourself into thinking there's nothing wrong. But if you find yourself like isolating or procrastinating for a very long time, like to the last possible minute, before you do tasks that you need to do, or before you can, let's say, for instance, you're going through a grieving time, but you still have to go to work, or you still have to take care of your family. Perhaps you'll binge on things, and that's kind of a
Hmm.
sign of depression.
Interesting.
Maybe binge on shopping or eating. Um, and other, like I said, isolation. Also, if you notice, I know for me, I love music. Music can change my mood, but if I find myself not even wanting to turn on music, then I know, okay, it's time for me to seek some help.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now you mentioned isolation a couple of times. What what would you like if someone would that be the same thing as having kind of an antisocial approach to life?
Sometimes yes. Like if you know, um I don't know, like you've been in your house, let's say it's a gorgeous summer day or a spring day, and ordinarily, you might like to go hiking. I know you like to go walking and hiking, but
Yes.
you just feel like, I don't want to be bothered with people. You just feel kind of moody, or
Hmm.
or you start ruminating about things that make you sad. Like, say for instance, you go down a rabbit hole, you might watch a TV show and it will remind you of something in your life that's depressing, and then you go down that rabbit hole of thinking about it, and next thing you know, you don't want to be bothered with anybody and you're in your house. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You're isolated and you're in your head, basically, is what it is. You stay to yourself and you don't get any other perspective on your situation, which keeps you even more isolated. So,
You've mentioned that before, in your head. And what I take away from that, when you what that means to me is that you start to only listen to yourself. You only focus on how you feel, your voice, and you tune out maybe people or voices that might be helpful to you. Is that
yes,
accurate?
that is exactly that.
Okay.
And I would feel like the way to kind of shift that mindset, you need other perspectives. You need to get out of your own head and your own thought processes, because you need to kind of shift the way you're thinking to stop going down that depression rabbit hole.
Okay. All right. Well, that's that's been a interesting, and that was good education in what some signs of depression look like. Now, resources. I know you mentioned to me some sort resources on IG and some other resources. What are
Mhm.
some of the things that resources people can utilize to kind of help their mindset?
Well, I follow a couple of mental health like influencers, some psychologists, and one of the people that I find very helpful is the holistic psychologist.
Okay.
And you can find her on IG, and she talks a lot about uh, maybe like childhood trauma and things that you went through that you're probably now still processing in adulthood, but she breaks down the psychological terms and the reasoning into layman's terms, and she gives you suggestions on how to kind of get through it, how to
Okay.
navigate, even how to discover that your behavior is attached to trauma, to previous trauma, because you might not make that association, and once you do, then you can go ahead and try to heal. Another person that I follow, because this is Black History Month, so I want to, spotlight some Black doctors. But her name is Dr. Shantae Says, and she's also on IG. But she gives very practical advice, again, on mental health and just wellness overall, but from a Black person's perspective, like talking about maybe traumas that we might experience that other races might not, right? So, for instance, discrimination or always having to code switch, these things affect us differently because it's yet another layer that we have to deal with when it comes to mental health and kind of compartmentalizing your emotions, right? So you need a few different perspectives.
What is code switching?
Code switching is basically when if you're amongst your own race or people that you feel comfortable with, you speak in a way that's comfortable for you and you're not judged on your speech. However, when you get into like a corporate environment or an environment that's a little bit more formal and has more people that are not of your race that wouldn't understand the slang or the colloquialisms, then you have to speak the Queen's English, basically. That's what code switching is, going between your comfortable, normal, colloquial language to proper English. Or I say proper because it's proper by
Professional. Let's just
someone
say
else's
professional.
standard.
I
Yes,
like to say professional, because when you
professional
say
language.
proper, that
Yes.
implies anything else is improper.
And this is what I was going to say, but we've been trained that one is
Of
appropriate and one
course.
is not. So,
Of course.
but
Wow.
that,
That
yeah,
that that's fascinating. Like, what I'll say about that real quick. I've got to go do my own research on code switching, because I'm sure that's a big part of my coping and survival mechanisms, and I don't even realize it.
absolutely.
So, all
Yeah.
right, that's wow. I love having you on the show. You are a wealth of information. Um,
Well, thank
Now,
you.
when we met, you mentioned breathing exercises. Can we talk about that briefly? What are some breathing exercises, or what does that look like for someone that might be, stressed because they're holding their breath?
Well, breathing exercises basically kind of bring you back to yourself, bring you back to the moment. Like it's considered mindfulness, right? So if you're in your head and you're spiraling out of control with these thoughts, that things are overwhelming to you, then you stop. You take some deep breaths, like
Mhm.
you inhale and hold it for a couple of seconds, then you kind of let out slowly. And what that does is kind of slow you down. It slows down your thought process, your heart, everything. It just kind of it centers you, and it allows you, or you basically tell your mind to kind of focus on only what's going on in that present moment. You're
Mhm.
not thinking about before or after, only in that moment. And
Mhm.
it just basically regulates your emotions.
Cool, cool. All right. Well, I think I remember when I was a little kid, my dad was an avid reader, and that's probably why I am. And there was this book that had on our bookshelf by Yoga, I believe it was Ramasharaka. I could have that wrong. And
Mhm,
the name of the book was The Science of Breath. And
mhm,
it talked about the importance of taking deep breaths and just that, irregardless of mental health, just from in general, your general health, just getting that fresh air in and consuming
mhm.
fresh air and how important that is. So
Absolutely.
I that's what comes to mind when we discuss that. Now, another thing you mentioned in our meeting was affirmations. How
Mhm.
can we use affirmations to kind of control our thought process?
Well, for me, I have a list of affirmations I say every morning. And what I've noticed, I've been doing this for years. What I've noticed is the more you say it, especially if you say it out loud, the more you say it, you kind of embody those
Hmm.
words, right? It gives you power. Um, and words are very powerful. So you are what you
Right.
say you are, right? So if every morning I wake up and like Mary J. Blige said, good morning, gorgeous. If I get up in the mirror and I look in the mirror and I say good morning, gorgeous, after about the seventh day, I'm like, you know what? I am gorgeous. You know what I mean? You feel
Right.
good about yourself.
Right.
I know for myself, I have a problem. Not a problem, but I like to eat out a lot, and it definitely is something that I need to change because it you spend a lot more money than you have to, and it's easier to control your diet by eating at home. So what I have on my refrigerator right now is an affirmation that says, "I love to take time to prepare healthy meals for myself." Because what I realize is half the reason I eat out is out of laziness, right? I don't want to take the time to prepare a meal for myself.
Right.
However, if I was entertaining someone, I would go all out like it's Thanksgiving. And I'm
Right.
like, wait a minute. You know what? I need to treat myself that way. So I had to write it down. And every time I go in my kitchen, I'm at the refrigerator, I see that. Now I don't always
Hmm.
follow it, but it's there. So, after a while, it'll get to me, and I'm like, you know what? No, I need to cook at home. It's better for me. And that's, to me, affirmations change you in that way. The more you say them, the more they'll become a part of who you are. And you probably won't need to save them anymore. Say them after a while because you'll automatically do these things that you set out to do.
See, you're stealing my moves, Juan Giroux. I mean, that's the perfect segue because that was next in my mind to discuss was diet and exercise. And I'm gonna, I don't want to be a classic narcissist and talk about myself this whole show, but for a
It's your
moment,
show, though. You don't say
but it
it's your
is my
show.
show,
Yeah.
but for a moment, we'll talk about diet and exercise and what I'm currently doing, my
Mhm.
program. And it's no official program. I didn't get it on the internet. I didn't speak to a fitness guru or nutritionist. But about 5 weeks ago, I stopped eating meat, and that wasn't a religious journey. That wasn't a socioeconomic journey. That was just me. I had gotten to a point if I ate a steak or if I even like say ate a few pieces of fried chicken, I'd get this terrible stomach ache the next day.
Mhm.
So I said, well, that might be my body talking to me and telling me
Mhm.
that I might want to try something different. And I grew up eating a vegetarian diet. When my dad remarried, his third wife, she was a vegetarian back in the days when nobody was a when it was rare,
Mhm.
when it was
Right.
considered, freakish behavior.
Right.
So I was eating Morning Star patties when I was in my youth. And so
Mhm.
I thought it was delicious back then, and I still ate meat. So it was like, okay, I can do both. But now that I'm older and I'm having certain kinds of digestive issues, I decided to stop eating meat. And I feel it's been 5 weeks since I've had any poultry, any beef or anything like that.
Mhm.
And I feel great. But getting back to mental health, it's something about when you feel good, it just kind of transfers to the other areas of your life, wouldn't you say?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what the whole purpose of endorphins is, right? So when you exercise and you release the endorphins and you feel good, or when you eat a healthy meal and you don't have a stomach ache, or you don't have heartburn from the fried foods, you feel like you accomplished something because you did something healthy for yourself and you feel good, and then you feel like you can conquer the world. So, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things I like to do, well, Saturday is usually a production day for me. That's when I usually do most of the shows, Saturday and Sunday. So I like to work out
Mhm.
before the show. I got to work out in this morning, and my energy level is up. I'm feeling good. I'm kind of got to bounce to my step, and I think I mentioned this when we attempted to record this show before, and we had some technical glitches. But it was okay because we came back and we decided to try to perfect this thing and
Right,
really get it
right.
right. And so every other day I exercise, and I mentioned previously that it's 25 minutes of cardio on a
Mhm.
cycle, normally not treadmill or whatever. Very, very low impact. I mean, I get it going. It's pretty stressful. And then I do like another 20, 25 minutes of weights, just 4 or 5 exercises, upper body,
Mhm.
lower body. But it's not the whole idea is to make it to where I won't want to blow it off because it's easy to get through the workout. So
Right.
that's been working for me. And I know the exercise, the diet, it
Mhm.
seems like that right now is a huge part of what's helping me to stay motivated and not feel isolated and
Mhm.
hopeless. So I think I'm glad that you confirmed that the importance of and then when it comes to cooking, like you said, I try to cook a lot from home. That that's a big part. That's why I said you're stealing my moves. So I
Mhm.
don't eat out a lot, and I think we share that. What do you have any suggestions? I want to take advantage of the fact that you do have a catering business, and you're really good at seasoning things without a lot of
Mhm.
salt and unhealthy. Could you
Mhm.
talk about that a little bit real quick?
Well, actually, from I cook a lot of Caribbean cuisine because my background is Trinidadian, but basically what I've noticed that sets uh, flavorful food apart from other food is using fresh herbs, right? So if
Mm,
you use
okay.
fresh herbs or even dried herbs if you don't have it, but putting a variety of herbs, not salt, pepper, onion powder, all of that. That's
Right.
cool, but you can use the fresh onion, the fresh peppers, stuff like that. It
Mhm.
even comes cut up now already in the grocery store. So those things, those aromatics add a lot of flavor to the food without even putting any salt in there. Like I haven't used I know people use a lot of seasoned salt, or sometimes they use like Sazon or MSG or whatever to add that salt that you're craving. And I don't do that anymore. I haven't done that in years. So I think the only seasoning that I use now that might have some kind of salt in it is it's a seasoning called Complete. I think it's by Badia, and I like it because it has everything, but I don't add any additional salt. Right, whatever is in
Mhm.
there is in there. But that will be the key. And then I actually make a fresh herb seasoning. I call it my good greens, and I do have that for sale as well. But basically, it's just a combination of herbs and garlic, no salt whatsoever. And I mix mine with lime juice because I'm not really a big fan of vinegar. But
Mhm.
it's a marinade, and you can put it in anything. Like I put
Wow.
it in soups, I put it on meat. If I'm gonna grill the meat, even if I'm currying something, you put it on as a base for your flavor, and then you can add other flavor on top of it. It goes very well. So things like that. In a nutshell, fresh herbs is what sets the food apart, and you don't have to add any unhealthy, salt or whatever, you can add a dash because I believe that salt brings out the flavor, but I'm not talking about, tablespoons or shaking it in like that. I'm talking about a very minuscule amount of salt.
Okay.
Um, and then I also wanted to say something about you talked about exercise and what you did. And I would say for myself, I've come down a few pounds since the pandemic. And what happened was I noticed during the pandemic, I really like to walk outside.
Hmm.
That's all I did. Excuse me. I didn't change my diet. I just walked like pretty much maybe 4 or 5 times a week, just 30 minutes, 1 mile. And I made a promise to myself that I would walk every day that it was sunny for at least 1 mile. And I kept that up. And next thing I know, my A1C, which is your diabetic, your numbers, your sugar level, basically for the last 3 months, mine came down. Now I'm like, I think I'm at 6.9. It was up there. It was like 8 something. So it was walking, just keeping it simple. I just started introducing weights. Like I just started going back to the gym because I wanted to make sure that I was consistent with at least the cardio before I go spend money on a gym, right? To make sure that I'm going to actually use it. But just keeping it simple, like you said, like you do your 25 minutes, you do a couple of exercises on the weights, but you get your cardio in. That works for people. You know what I mean? Like you said, keeping it simple is the key.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I would have failed to probably see. I told you clear that throat.
Exactly.
You got to clear that throat
You
before you hit record real good, and in that way that throat booger ain't stuck in your throat.
not the throat clear. Oh, this
Wonderful thought.
right.
But you know, that brings me to the Meetup app. We had talked about that as well. And I think for me, I didn't really know what it was, and I know I'd heard you and a few other friends mention it. Well, I found this particular group on the Meetup app, or I found this particular hiking group or sewing group, sipping paint. And so what I would say is after a while, I was like, well, man, let me download this Meetup app. I downloaded it, you put your profile in, and because like you said, I've gotten into hiking the last year or so, I was able to find a group that's near where I live, people in my age group, people that aren't going to be doing, Rambo's type hiking.
Right.
It's not going to be military. They're not going to be running on rocks. It's going to be something that's manageable. So I would also recommend to anyone that's especially older people in our age group who may be single and you don't have, live with someone that you can socialize, talk to. So if you're alone and you're yearning for that interaction, that human
Right. The
engagement,
connection.
that connection with other people that like some of the same activities as you, download that Meetup app or go to meetup.com and create an account. And even like, you and I, we like old school hip hop. And some people like old school R&B. You'll be able to
Right.
find the old school R&B bands around your area where they're performing, and you can go to those and get out of the house and not, feel like you're just stuck in a rut.
Right. I would also suggest Eventbrite. They have paid and free events on Eventbrite in whatever area you're in, and also Facebook groups, Facebook social groups. They're very good, especially a lot of people our age group. They are on Facebook, like not necessarily TikTok and whatnot, but Facebook is easy to navigate. Go on to the groups and see what you're interested in, and you might make new connections there as well.
Well, you know what, Wanjiru, I would like to go on. There's a few things I kind of skipped over that I had in mind, but I've learned that with this podcast journey, this YouTube channel journey, when you start hitting 30, 45 minutes, actually, when you start hitting 10, 15 minutes, you're going to lose most people in this TikTok generation. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap this up. If you like this episode, ladies and gentlemen, please subscribe. Please hit the like button and feel free to comment. I'd love to know what you think about what we discussed today, but I can't thank you enough, Wanjiru. You're a gift from heaven with all this information.
Okay.
And one of the things that I wanted to get into, and I guess we're going to have to do a part 2, is I really wanted to get into spiritual growth, but I realize now that's a show by itself.
Right. So you can come on my show and we can rock that spiritual growth. We can definitely talk about that. We can do that next time.
Well, I'm available. Let me know.
I will absolutely let you know. We're gonna set that up.
Okay.
And make sure y'all sign up for Zima 360 Wellness. I'm on IG, I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube. Go ahead, click that like button and follow.
A lot of good information. So I would like for you to, if you haven't, if you have a Instagram account, look for Zima 360 Wellness. Try to connect with Wanjiru there. She's really a wealth of information, and I like how you talked about how to use social media in a positive way, cleansing your feed, filtering your feed, of scrubbing your feed of anything negative, anything that will trigger you. So that's something else that I wish we could have discussed a little more, but that's okay. It was a great show. I
Absolutely.
appreciate you, and everyone out there, enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.
All right. Deuces.